Happy heresies and happy holidays. Welcome to Aeon Bite. I hope everybody is having good holidays and had a Merry Christmas. My name is Miguel Connor. I am your Pompatus of Gnosis. I am the magic man, but everybody here is magical too, and you are magical. If you think I'm magical, I touch roses. And yes, I bet nobody had in their bingo card that I would quote Book of Love, but for some reason I had to do it. And yes, I've decided I don't go against the gods. I don't go against the voices in my head, whether it's the Elvis book, Astronosis, or as you saw from the video introduction, the tarot deck. If there's a voice in my head, I've learned I just go with it regardless of what happens. And that's why I quoted, this song that I'm sure everybody forgot about. But yes, great show tonight. I'm glad to have some good friends to talk about our demented 2023 and how 2024 might go. So with us, we've got a man that I hope will show us a world without sin. And I'd like to congratulate for going a year without drinking, and that's Gordon White. Gordon, how are you? And congrats.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. If you see me with this is actually a 0%. That was crazy. That was a really fun ride. I'm just looking at the screen. I'm so much redder than the three of you. You can definitely tell which hemisphere I'm in. Goodness, I should have.
Oh, I know. Not much going out, even though that here it's been above average. And with us too, it's always great to have Chris, who I know has made a commitment not to talk bad about Bono until the holidays are over. I have a feeling he couldn't do it or commit to it, and he's already talking about what to do in 2024, busy on Twitter. I think he's right. Get everything off the web, physical copies, because they're coming for us. Ha 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 ha. Hooray. Chris, thanks for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
And have you said anything bad about Bono? Or you?
No.
You've kept your
I'm
holiday.
keeping my promise.
Good deal. And with us too, we've got the Moondog Vans. Vince, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm fine. Merry Christmas to all. Glad to see Chris and Gordon here. And we'll have a super review of 2023. Two days, 2022 or what rhymed, but anyway.
Awesome. Well, for those of you in the chat, as always, if you have any questions, please super chat them. We've already got over 100 people in the comments, and I know the number is just going to get much bigger than that, so we can separate your questions. I saw your super chat, Chester, and appreciate and hope you had a good holiday. So I guess we should just go with what we thought 2023 was. Any of you guys want to get us started?
Gordon, you go first.
I have to say, if you look back at the global atrocities, they're also kind of entirely expected. This was not a year of surprises. Looking at the model that I was at, in fact, it's the energy of I'm not surprised, or I don't know what I was expecting, is more the energy that 2023 brings. Of that's about it. That seems where we are in the precipitous, collapse of Western civilization. Even, and I mean, which isn't to diminish the horrors. I suppose the only step change was how intimate the horrors being perpetrated are now, that you just open up your phone to get a grocery list and see dead babies, and it's right, okay. This is going great. Everything's going great. We're all having a good time. But for me, that I look at 2023 as expected, and I think that's actually a key to looking at 2024, is to find the level at which these events are not unexpected, and you derive intelligence from that level, right? You can kind of see forward if you find the level of where this is going according to someone's, if not plan, then trajectory. But that was 20. I mean, on a personal level, it was certainly mixed. Had some high points and definite emergency health low points. But it was the year itself. as expected, I think. If I was to give it a school report card.
Yeah, you had Austin in your yearly chat, and what stuck out to me, well, what stuck out most was the last quarter, him losing his cat, and I lost my cat, and of course, it was already a very emotional show listening to the both of you because again, the stars were aligned. But weren't you and him talking about how 2024 is the end of the story and
Yeah.
2025 is the
So, like, I get where Austin's coming from there. I'm running to a slightly different predictive model, but what he means by that is that 2025 has more of the bigger astrological step changes where all the outer planets will be in new signs, right? More or less. So that's a fundamental, that is a great reset. And that happens in 2025. That's when we start to get the World War III proper stuff happening, right? So 2024, he called it the year of red herrings because there's going to be a whole bunch of stuff that gets started that is on the assumption that we're not about to head into this 2025, 27 clusterfuck, which will stymie a lot of that. So I have no idea. Digital passports, all that kind of stuff that's going to be rolled out next year. It's like, well, how much of this stuff survives a world war? You know what I mean? And that was the angle I wanted to bring to 2024 is don't make long-term predictions or don't extrapolate from the stupid shit that is going to start showing up or continue to show up. And I think that's pretty fair, actually, to be honest.
Yeah, I would certainly agree. Yeah, I just saw Canada wants to do basic income. It's like,
Oh, look.
oh, gee, that won't make inflation worse. That'll solve all the problems. And you've talked about, yeah, the studies on what basic income does to the psyche of a population. So Canadians are effed. What about you, Chris? What's thy take?
Well, we lost 3 cats and a dog. We lost
Oh,
Linda,
no.
which was
Yeah.
really hard. Linda was a huge part of my recovery process. So losing her was hard. I mean, it's not unexpected. She was 13 years old. But I see this year as huge plates moving, huge tectonic plates moving into place for future events. One thing that I think wasn't remarked upon, and I would like to bring everyone's attention to, because I said so, as you know, soon after it happened, is like that Covington shooting in Kentucky. I was like, this is the end of all that. And what did we have almost immediately after? The Bud Light thing with Dylan Mulvaney, and then Target, right? Almost immediately after that shooting, it's like everything just started to fall apart. And I think, you know, maybe because Musk owns X, which I refuse to call X, I call it Twitter. And a lot of the major advertisers are dropping out. But I think that a lot of the stuff that they've been pushing is going to be gone. You know, we're going to see a lot less of this gender stuff. And because I think that was one of those moments where people just sort of stop. And even if they don't consciously acknowledge it, it's like, okay, you know, all this intersectional stuff is now it's killing people. And that's when it ends. That's when it all stops. So I think that that's something that people haven't really paid as much attention to, but I see as absolutely pivotal. But also we're on the tail end of this whole thing with the free money and the venture capital and all this craziness that started really, I would say 2012, around there, maybe sort of ramped up 2014. We're seeing the end of that. Hollywood is dying. It's not playing possum. It's literally dying. Things that we got used to complaining about in the past few years, we're not going to see next year. I think that it's all, I mean, it will still be on sort of a low level, you know, like you're sort of like 2,000-3,000 Twitter follower accounts, you know, sort of still going to be pushing this stuff, but it's over. It isn't just like the gender stuff and everything, but it's everything across the board. And advertisers are going to be extraordinarily reticent and hesitant to sort of buy into the current thing. And also and I'm sure Gordon can speak to this with more authority, but the Ukraine situation. I think that was a lot more important. It's kind of like the Epstein situation. I remember when the whole Epstein thing went down in the summer of 2019. I remember thinking, like, this is a lot bigger than it's being acknowledged as being. This is big. This is a lot bigger than people realize. This is, again, those tectonic plates moving beneath the surface. And that's what I think we saw this past year. Of course, we got the election coming up. I can't even begin to imagine how that's going to play out. I'm sure that the entire regime, as it's come to be known fondly, is going to go into overdrive, just throwing every dirty trick they can possibly manage. I just don't understand. I can't see where Trump is going to go because he has no institutional support. He has less institutional support than he did in 2016. So I just don't understand how this is going to play out. It very much reminds me of Julius Caesar, though. So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, this is the year that, it's like in chess where you start moving the pieces around, getting ready for your gambits. And that's what I think that 2023 was all about. And I think 2024, following Gordon's model, the 2025 is going to be where the shit hits the fan. I think that we're going to be seeing massive mobilizations in 2024. They're already beginning, but they're all going to go badly because the empire became fat and complacent and didn't pay attention to what the people who they chose for elimination or their adversaries, or however you want to choose to put it. They didn't understand that while we were blowing billions and trillions of dollars on these ridiculous high-tech systems, they were just building shells, and rockets and missiles and ammunition, the stuff that really wins wars, not all this gee whiz nonsense that is going to be seen 5 years from now. All that stuff is going to be gone because it's going to be tested on the battlefield and found to be almost completely useless.
Yeah, whatever went on with military funding it's a slush fund and it's where trillions go missing. Yes, but the US projects power with its carrier groups, and its carrier groups can be nullified with Kinzhal missiles, which it can't shoot down. Like, it's so obvious. Like, and they've had 20 years to fix it and didn't, right? Well, while Russia just stacks up Kinzhal missiles, and you think, all right, let's see how this goes. It's not gonna go good.
Well, look at that situation in the Red Sea now with Yemen. This group, the Houthis, who they tried to basically completely eliminate off the face of the earth, weren't, and are now holding shipping hostage throughout the Red Sea, which is one of the most crucial choke points. And Biden launched this Operation Commercial Freedom, whatever the nonsense was called.
Prosperity Guardian. Stupid as fucking.
Yeah, it's just like, what a joke of a military we have now, and it already fell apart. So that is, I would see that as for people in the West, as an extraordinarily troubling development that they can't even put together an effective operation to stop, just basically a ragtag bunch of, with some drones and
fell apart on both sides too, because when not even Australia will send ships in support of the latest ludicrous American adventurism, that's when the empire is fucked at both ends. Like, that's a devil's three-way right there, because they're ineffective forward and they have no allies. Like, literally Australia is like, nope, our 2 or 3 boats, whatever bullshit we have, it's like we're taking care of our regional area instead. That's an alarming sign, because that's never happened before. So it is it's going to be an interesting thing to watch if we are watching from somewhere safe.
And Gordon, do you think there's going to be any play for Taiwan, or is that going to wait till 2025?
I don't. When I look at I think that's later on in the decade. It's just not that. My guess is it's later in the decade. It 100% happens, but if you think about the longer China waits, the easier it is. Like, never interrupt your enemy when he's making a mistake, and the potato is making lots of them. So I don't see it happening yet, but it's definitely happening, right? And that's
But Australia would have to commit.
2024 thing. Now, there might be skirmishes, and that might be an indication of the red herring, because there's some interesting astrology coming up in Q1. The Mars-Saturn conjunction in Pisces is some kind of naval event. I think that's Kinzhal missiles. I think that's more Middle East, Europe, but it could be, it can be, if not a invasion from the water, then some kind of naval skirmish in disputed territory or what have you. So I think if we do get something, because there already is, they're already, bumping planes with each other and so on. So it's not like it won't. It's not like it couldn't flash, but in terms of mobilizing to invade, I don't see that. I don't have that in my 2024 card.
And but Australia would commit with the West, right? It's gonna go.
Why not? So we will go to war with our major export partner. Yep. Sounds like us.
Self-destruction. But yeah, I think Chris is right. Even before the show, we were talking about the trying to cancel inner traditions because they put out a Julius Evola book, and you saw the same group trying to, with the digital pitchforks, and it didn't stick. It's just not as powerful. Even these holidays, I have not seen anything about trying to cancel the song "It's Cold Outside" or a fairy tale of New York or the usual kind of unhinged thing. So at least that seems to be getting better.
Well, all the cancelers seem to have gone to either Mastodon or Blue Sky.
Mm.
And Blue Sky is basically completely walled off. You can't even access it if you don't have...
I didn't even know it. This is the first time I've heard of it.
An account. Well, it's Jack Dorsey's new data scraping. I mean, it's complete. You should see the user terms. It's basically like everything you have, we own. All your data, everything, your health, financial, credit score, everything you have, we own. That's literally what the user agreement says. I mean, I don't know who in their right mind would sign up for that, but that's, I think, where a lot of the cancelers went. A lot of cancelers went to Mastodon, which is just like, you might as well just go back to MySpace. You know what I mean? It's like Mastodon. I hear so many people apologizing for it or defending it or saying how wonderful it is. It's just like, that's where you go for your voice to die. Yeah. I mean, for instance, Daily Grail made a big stink and a big show of quitting Twitter, like anybody cared. And they went to Mastodon, and I'll periodically check on their page there, and it's like they have almost no interaction whatsoever. I mean, people just do not go there. You know who goes to Mastodon are like CP fans. It's and that's pretty well acknowledged. I mean, that's not like I'm not going Pizzagate on you guys. It's pretty well acknowledged that it's a huge hub for child abusers and child abusing enthusiasts. So
yeah.
That
However, I'm not sure how much of a differentiator that is, unfortunately, in 2023. That's a legitimate criticism of X/Twitter, is they could be doing more about that.
Well, I have all sorts of criticisms about X, and I refuse to call it X. The bots have gotten completely out of control. I'm constantly getting bots commenting with total spam. People are manipulating the trending with just absolute nonsense, using hashtags and everything to just spam the trending. It's almost completely useless now. But this is part of what I see as a wider program to make the internet useless. And that sounds, like hyperbole, but I don't think it is. I think there is definitely an agenda afoot to make the internet useless. And the AI thing, so all the search engines, I think by this time next year, at the latest, their search engines will be all AI. And I've noticed, go ahead, Gordon.
If you mean useless as in unusable, I agree, because they're going to turn around and go, and therefore we need a digital ID to prove that you're the real Chris Knowles and you're not an AI bot version of it, and so on. In that sense, 100%. Like they're talking about, what are we going to do to fix this problem that we fucking caused on the web? Like, they're flooding it with this bullshit. Like, I know what, we'll have a government ID. So yes, it's definitely making it unusable so that people scream for, like, please let me just go back to some form of reality. It's like, okay, cool, here's your ID.
Well, I'll tell you what we're doing at the Secret Sun Institute. I've started something called the Secret Sun Shredder, and I want to create a database, blockchain with an internal server, where all this information that search engines are not producing anymore, unless you get super specific with your searches, you know, whether it's conspiracy or Gnostic or esoteric, I mean, whatever. I have thousands and thousands of files on disks and everything, and it's stuff that just you can't get anymore. And you probably heard about dead internet theory, right? Where it's just, you haven't heard about dead internet theory? Go on YouTube and watch some videos on it, because it's really true. I mean, things are just vanishing. I had all these old bookmarks for like some pretty major sites, and I'd go to these sites and they're gone. They're just gone. I mean, and all that information is gone. Never mind like all the information that you'd have on like message boards and comment sections. It's all gone, and it's all being systematically taken away. And I think we really need to take it upon ourselves to preserve this information, or it's just not going to be available to anybody.
And that includes movies,
100%.
books, everything else. I mean, they can change the plot of a book in an instant if they wanted to. I'm sure they've tried. They took Trump out of Home Alone 2. My God, what else can they do?
Okay.
Yeah.
That's just so petty. It's just like, I mean, I don't like the guy. I've never made any secret that I'm not a Trump fan, but it's just like, it's such a daddy issue thing, you know. It's either a daddy issue thing or like a bully thing. So it's just, we have all these like people who are still stuck. It's just astonishing. The people who are supposed to be the leaders in the establishment, media, I mean, even military intelligence, up and down the line, these people are all just fucking children, and also fucking children. You know, they're just infantile. And to me, like the whole Trump thing, it's just such a symptom of the infantility. You know, it's like, again, I don't like the guy. I've never liked him. I didn't vote for him, but I don't sit there and obsess on him. You know, and I think the people who do are just showing their hands that they're just children. They're just adolescents. They have an adolescent mentality, and it's just, we cannot sustain a complex, technologically advanced society with these people. We can't. You know, these people who insert themselves into to all these nodes, these critical nodes and positions of power, and they have the emotional continence of a 12-year-old girl. You know.
Yeah, and speaking of elections, do you guys think there is going to be an election, or does it matter? I mean,
I don't think there was one in 2020, but
it never matters. It's one thing. So this, I would say, is a good example of when you jump up to a planning level, that's the right thing to predict. So the people that Chris was just talking about, know they can't win. Not that you ever get fair fights in American elections, but they know they can't win, and they're in the middle of a heist. So they're going to do whatever they can to make sure that it tips in their direction. So they're starting with things like Colorado. And if that doesn't work, it's going to be something else. And if that doesn't work, it's going to be something else, right up until, which I honestly think is the ultimate card to play, because I can't see them assassinating him, although who fucking knows. Imagine assassinating a game show host because you can't. Anyway. Yeah, true. I mean, when I say that, I'm not saying they don't do that stuff. I mean, I think you end up with like a martial law style situation due to large scale terrorist events. And consequently, everyone has to postal vote. And that's how they, because if you look at the Armstrong model for it, it's like there is an election, but neither side believes the result. So for that to be true, for it to be neither side, it seems like it'll be everyone, because of they run another virus story or it's some kind of terrorist thing. Everyone has to postal vote. and they just do it that way. And you get to the other side of the election, and it's another record landslide for the potato, and you get civil unrest. But like, it's more to the point that rather than speculate which one little tactic they're going to use, like, oh, they're totally going to do this to flip the election, because you can be wrong and likely will be wrong about that. Jump up to the level where you understand that these people are, in a very, very incompetent, childlike, moronic Keystone Cops way that Chris just mentioned, doing everything they can to ensure that they can complete the heist, right? And if you understand that, it's like, well, then I'm not going to, not that you should invest emotionally in an election involving either of these two alleged humans, regardless. But like, okay, cool. You guys go and do that. I'm going to try and go and do something that makes the universe better in the meantime. That would be my approach to it.
Yeah, or they can just make Nikki Haley the queen and just start raining nuclear bombs all over the world. It'd be
such a good example. I've said this last time, but I love projecting my mind forward to being a history student in 200 years' time, learning about this moment, going like, no, no. The chapter of Nikki Haley. No way did this happen. No way did this happen. Amazing.
Yeah. Nikki Haley is the Kamala Harris of Hillary Clinton's.
I love that.
Yeah. She's not a bright woman. She's just a mouthpiece for the, DynCorp and Lockheed Martin and Raytheon, on and on and on. And she's just a puppet. And it's, I don't know Vivek's positions from a hole in the wall, but I love how he just went after her in the debates. Not that I watch debates, I just saw the sound bites on Twitter, and it was great because she's such an easy target. But we are really at the point now. I think a lot of people don't understand that this country is actually run by this large interlocking network of councils and committees, and the ones we do know, the Trilateralists and Council on Foreign Relations, and then the Atlantic Council. But there's tons of others, and all these boards, and then like State Street and BlackRock and all these other companies. It's all this. These people all serve on each other's boards. They all intermarry. They all network together. They all go to the same schools. They all go to Martha's Vineyard in the summer. It is, in a completely incestuous system. So maybe in one regard, it doesn't really matter who gets in, because nothing of any importance is going to be allowed to be decided by these people. And, and as far as Congress goes, just forget it. It's a joke. It's a sick joke. I was watching, these hearings, and it's like that guy, Dan Goldman, who's like a Levi's heir.
Oh my God.
He's like as dumb as a post. And he's a guy, he just keeps walking into these traps that he's like the Wile E. Coyote of Congress people. And he's so stupid, and it's just so obvious that he's stupid. And I'll see like all these people on Twitter, oh, he's so great and everything. It's just like, Congress is just a farce. It doesn't even rise to the level of professional wrestling.
But it gave us George Santos. That's going to be fun for years to come.
And then Fetterman too. And,
Fetterman's awesome. Yeah, I love him.
Yeah, Caligula's horse, as he's known as. Yeah. So. But this is late empire stuff. It's so typical. Just go open a history book and just look up any late empire, and you're going to see all the same patterns playing out. It's human nature. Everything is cyclical. Everything has been done before. Everything has happened before. Everything will happen again. But the thing that is worrisome is this level of technical sophistication that we've become so dependent on. It's like I say, like, the smarter our computers get, the dumber we get, and the stronger our tools get, the weaker we get. And this is a major problem. And it's like, I haven't talked about this for a while, but I keep hearing this, like people like, oh God, these Gen Zers, they don't even show up, or they show up late and they don't know how to do anything, but we've got to, sort of humor them and everything. And it's like, this isn't just like, I don't know, millennials and Gen Xers getting crotchety. This is like across the board. And it's like, how do you sustain a very sophisticated, highly technologized culture and civilization with people who don't know how to fix them. It's just like, don't know how to run them, don't know how they work. Yeah, we are just, there's so many things that we're heading into. There's so many headwinds that we're heading into, let's just say. And I don't know how people are going to be able to navigate these waters in the future.
But
I
Chris,
know that
think
sounds
you
very
and I-
pessimistic, but go ahead. What's that?
I think it's going to be bad. You and I talked about it on the phone. I mean, I am seeing people that I thought I knew for years, and they're just coming out with this rank anti-Semitism. I'm not talking about anti-Zionism, anti-Semitism. And I'm like, I never knew this about you, and you're calling for this really bad. And I'm seeing people coming with Islamophobe anger just out of nowhere. I'm like, I never heard of this about you in 10 years. And I'm like, this shadow projection is going to be bad against Jews, Muslims, and immigrants, and it breaks my heart because we're not going to solve the problem by taking out MAGA or Jews or Muslims or immigrants. Again, it's the divide and conquer. They're still very good at it.
Yeah, but I think they outsmarted themselves, though. Go ahead, Gordon.
See, I think so. At Christmas. So one of the things Austin said on the show, which I really liked, because there's a lot, particularly in Q1, it's a lot of Mars stuff going on. And he's like, be careful in which army you enlist, because you're going to be enlisted. You're going to be, like, on the literal level, we are looking at a non-zero chance, in fact, quite a good chance of a draft coming back. I think that's what the illegal immigrants, whatever we want to call them, are for. But that's not the point here. The point is more philosophical. Be careful in what army you enlist. Because I looked over Christmas at pro-Palestine protesters attacking Christmas trees in New York. And it's like, oh, and I felt some kind of way about that. And I'm like, fuck those guys. And I'm like, wait, that's actually like, this is, wait, hang on. I like Christmas and I want to stop bombing Gaza. It's so good. Like, because I'm like, fuck those guys. Like, wait a minute. That's not actually my position. And I think if you look at what, because they come out of the same NGOs and what have you, and
George Soros,
exactly. But if you look at previous runs at this, like Black Lives Matter or whatever, they got better and better at the actual dividing, right? Because you could kind of go left, right, and polarize it. And the Israel-Gaza stuff isn't left, right. It's weird in that. It's so good, right? And the trans thing is another one. So you move through them and they get really, really good at this. And this latest one is a demonic masterclass in divide and conquer, because at Christmas, it's like, oh, don't attack the Christmas tree, but also don't attack Palestine. It's so good. I mean, in a horrific way. And this doesn't end well. It can't. It's like they've perfected, this is the crack version of divide and conquer. It's not good.
No, there's going to be a lot of innocent dead people in this country all over the world soon. And it's going to just create even more anger and more division and more armies against each other. So,
yep. So be careful. Be careful. Everyone's going to want to enlist you. Be careful where you enlist, I think, is good advice.
Yeah, stand for peace. Stand for the minority. Stand for the defenseless. Stand for something greater than don't stand for where they're pulling your emotions towards, because they are pulling your emotions, and it's to insanity. That's where it leads to.
Amen.
Lord. Vance, any questions, or what do you think? Any predictions?
Well, predictions. I think that in 2024, phone menus, touch tone menus are going to get way longer, because they're getting longer and longer. Press 1 for English, and if you have if you have an emergency, dial 911, and then before you know it, to find out if your pills are ready, it's going to take 10 minutes. That's
you have to give your pronouns too.
Yeah, right. 1 for he, 2 for she, and 3 for other. But I'm wondering what's going to happen with the UFO disclosure. I kind of feel like it's petering out, that the government has got it under control, that they've kind of squashed it. So that's what my prediction is, that we're not going to see any real secrets coming out with the UFO. I'm afraid inflation's going to get much worse. That's what I'm afraid, because as they destroy the energy infrastructure, inflation's going to go up accordingly, because everything runs on energy, everything, including servers and so forth. Internet, yeah, I bet you the internet will continue to disappear, because if you think about it, there's only so much storage that they can build. How many EMC servers or whatever they're using nowadays for the mega terabyte storage. How many more of those can they build? I think they're starting to dump old stuff out to replace it with junk and advertising and so forth. In 2024, Facebook will become completely advertised, and you'll have to dig around to find a post from somebody. I think Congress will degenerate into just like the stock market, only with protesters fighting each other. It's going to be a 24/7 protest, and nothing will get done, as if anything's getting done now.
Gentlemen, you can fight here. It's the war room. That's what's going to be Congress every day.
Oh, and AI. I gotta talk about AI. I'm not totally against AI. It's like any other tool. It's going to be reflective of whatever direction the society is going. It can be very useful, because when I search for things, a lot of times I have to do multiple searches, play around with the keywords to get what I want. I found that in some cases, using certain AI systems will get me to results much faster, and that's where it should be applied. That's one of the good. But it's like anything else. I'm a little bit worried about. I'm a little bit worried about this nuclear threat stuff, because I'm starting to hear the kind of rhetoric that I remember as a child in the 60s. I heard with the Russians and the atom bombs and all this other stuff. And, people are starting to rattle their nuclear sabers. And I don't know if it's going to happen in 2024, but it's like the cards are on the table now for, at least limited nuclear weapons. And that worries me. So I don't think it'll happen in 2024, but maybe 2025. Somebody might let off something. And Iran is really the spot to watch. I think Iran, forget about Russia and China and all this other stuff. I think Iran is probably is the real tinderbox there. They're the ones they're the catalyst that's going to start a lot of trouble in the world. So keep your eye on Iran. That's
Persia. It's like back to Rome, with the wars against Persia. It's the same thing. It's just like things just change, the centers of power just sort of slightly move west every eon or whatever. And but the same patterns just keep playing themselves out. And it's just like you look at the crisis of the 3rd century in Rome, and a major contributor to these crises, which is plural, were all these wars with Persia. So it's just everything is, like I said, everything is just cyclical. It just changes garb, it changes incarnation. But I think there's also something, I don't want to say necessarily comforting, but there's something kind of reassuring about that, because you just realize, 'twas ever thus. This has happened before. This will happen again. And it might not change, your physical safety, your physical well-being, but it can change your inner well-being, to just realize that, you're part of this larger drama. You're part of this drama that, like I said, that repeats throughout history. And that to me is, we can sit here and talk about all the problems till the cows come home, but what are we going to do about it? What are we going to do about it? We all know that we have no influence over what these we might influence what these idiots in Congress might say, but we have no influence what these the councils that run everything do, and these boards and these hedge funds and all this kind of nonsense. So, what are you going to do about it? And you can just work on yourselves. And this is like, I'm really getting to Marcus Aurelius again, because he lived in a very tumultuous time, and he sort of developed this way of thinking. And then it's not just him; it's also people like Seneca and so on. But I just find that you can't change the world outside. You are a part of a bigger drama. What you need to concentrate on is who you are, what you're doing, and how you respond to it. And I think the best way to respond to it is to start with developing inner peace. And that might sound kind of hippy dippy and so on, but it isn't. And I've been talking with the group, with my people on Patreon about dreaming. That dreaming is something that always gets a lot more interesting and important during times of crisis. And people just think, oh, well, that you're a dreamer. But I just did a live stream where, you couldn't believe all the inventions that came to people in dreams that just completely changed history, changed the world. Not only, inventions and creations and discoveries and so on, but, people like Hannibal and George Patton, all these alpha males were following their dreams for their oracles, basically. So we can't change what's going on outside of us, but we can change how we choose to exist within it. And that, I think, I don't want to say that, changes things outside of us, but there's a school of thought that if you change yourself, you change the world. So I think that, again, we can look at all these problems, and we should be aware and cognizant of them, but we shouldn't surrender them. I think that we have a lot of tools and resources at our disposal. And one of the things, talking about the death of the internet is just, maybe creating an alternative internet, a parallel internet, where people are taking information that they've collected and so on and sharing it and making it available on demand. I think that's the only way we're going to be able to survive. What I see is just a tremendous crackdown starting next year. It's arguably starting already.
I would just say that the inward turn is the only thing that's ever changed anything. I'll go even further, because if you don't, you get caught in playing out your own savior trauma, your own victim trauma. The Gnostic demiurgic sin is believing that I can change and perfect the world. And that's not what we're for. We are for that inner thing. That's what Jung said, right? Do you think there's going to be a nuclear war? And he says, well, it depends on how many people can integrate their shadow. And that's the only right answer to a prediction of a nuclear war, because one, the answer is yes, because not enough of us can. But two, it's oh, right. And I do think that meaningfully impacts the field of the earth when we make that turn. I think it's the only thing that you can do that isn't playing out trauma, picking tribes and what have you. So I am in full agreement, and I'll push it even crazier. I think it's the only thing we can do.
Well, on the subject of creating another internet, if you haven't noticed, a lot of Microsoft in particular is pushing people to suck all your files and so forth into their servers with OneDrive, right? And I've resisted that, and I think it would be a great idea for everybody to resist it, because without people's individual storage that they own and control, their stuff could go away at a snap. Oops, sorry, we're Microsoft, you're deleted. So that's something and there's an example of something you can do. You can not buy into obvious corporate ploys to rob us of our individuality and our independence.
Yeah, get off the cloud.
Yeah.
Just if the cloud isn't a cloud, it's a prison.
It's fog. Can't see.
Another thing I just read is that T-Mobile has decided that if they don't like what you're saying on their network, that they're going to fine you, $500 or $500 and up for every offense. And of course, the German owned. It's
how did they get away with that?
I don't know if it would withstand scrutiny,
wiretapping,
because they're supposed to be basically utility, and utilities aren't allowed to pick and choose what they allow people to discuss on their networks or whatever. But this is just part of this process that we're seeing, and it's going to get worse. And people need to start reaching out to other people, networking, maybe even people that you don't necessarily like, or you've had problems with in the past, whatever. I mean, we've got to be the guardians. I sort of see ourselves in the coming years as like the monks during the Dark Ages. The monks sort of keeping all these texts alive. Well, barbarians were just ransacking the continent. And I mean, that's a rough metaphor, but I sort of see that is happening now. So, I mean, we luckily have the tools to do so, but we need to do the work. We need to do the work to sort of keep this information alive, because I've noticed, and I don't know if it's you have noticed, Miguel, or you've noticed, Gordon, is that I've noticed since the AIs are becoming more and more prominent on the search engines, is that my traffic on, the Secret Sun blog has really dropped considerably. Yeah. So, I mean, because a lot of the traffic I'd get is that people would search for something and, link to my site would come up. And now it's like people do a search on something and some spiel, some chatbot gives them some spiel, and they're like, oh, okay, that's all I need to know. So,
I can see that happening. It's true.
Yeah,
it'll also bring up spiels that are supportive of the dominant message. That's what I was looking at in my AI series. So it's more like, oh, I was looking for something that apparently isn't real. Synchromysticism isn't real. So they won't actually click through it if it surfaced as a result anyway. But that, like, we have our own encrypted off the internet platforms for communication now. I have air-gapped hard drives. I've been calling it the Rivendell Project since 2019, which is this to be the last lovely house east of the sea. You need to be what you want to survive this Atlantean moment, really, like sinking and collapse. Because I agree completely. And next year, this is the thing that I didn't get in the Astro show, but I'm doing a show of my own a bit later. I don't think people realize just how far ahead, and I think it's going to be the biggest red herring, but just how far ahead the digital ID permissioning onto the internet is going to be. I'm looking at what they're passing through, obviously, in Australia, because this is a tyrannical shithole. But when you combine the passport stuff they're doing in Europe with the digital ID they're doing here, it's the Five Eyes building out the one ring to rule the whole internet that you will need to comply. This is one of the things that I don't think survives the subsequent years, but in between now and then, that is a real thing that is coming that I don't think people realize is going to get as bad as it will next year. And what are you doing about that? Do you already have what encrypted platforms do you use, and who do you communicate with, and all of that? Because otherwise, as it's happened over the last 3 years, it'll just be people complaining as it happens and saying, oh, we need to stand up. Well, then get your fucking sticks and get up off the fucking couch and do something. But next year, the digital stuff is going to, the screws get turned again. It's something the World Economic Forum predicted for 2025, so not next year, which was by 2025, we will have had a major cyber attack that changes the way we access the internet forever. We haven't had it yet. And that's by 2025. So
leave the world behind plot.
The time is now. Yeah.
Digital COVID.
Oh, gosh.
Put your masks on. Get your mask on your computer.
I will walk into the cold, shark-infested sea. If that's what it is, I'm done.
Well, that's what, but people should get angry. I mean, I agree with you guys. The best thing I've done this year is breathe. I mean, the more I breathe and meditate and go inward and like Chris, follow my dreams, listen to the I Ching, listen to the gods, the better I am, because I see how small these archons are and what a beautiful, majestic flow this universe has that offers each one of us this divine beauty and essence. So, but at the same time, I think we should get really mad because, again, 2008, most of the wealth went up. The last 2 years, regardless of where you are in the argument with this or that, Ukraine, the Jabberwocky, money has gone to the rich and the poor are getting screwed. So that should I would not give anybody an inch in anything, because this will continue. They're just going to keep
Yeah.
siphoning money upward.
Yeah,
the
this
one
is true.
the one thing I might be wrong, and I know it's weird again, I was always like, AI cannot be conscious. I was always on the Philip K. Dick side. But then I keep being haunted, and I'm sure you guys know the myth of Sabaoth and on the origin of the war, the hypostasis of the archons. And I'm like, wait a second, this mechanic algorithm AI called Sabaoth is able to redeem itself and go up to Sophia in the seventh heaven. So now I'm not so sure. And I know it's my obsession. You know, when a myth gets you, the myth catches you, the archetype catches you, and you sort of have to struggle with that. So I no longer think AI can't be conscious because of Sabaoth.
I don't think we
I
know
like
enough
it.
about consciousness to know that it can't. But but we don't know enough about AI to know how big the network would have to be and how interconnected. I think consciousness has to be interconnected with the universe, maybe even a quantum level. That's what it has, because your thermostat's not conscious, right? You can start that, and it's aware of the temperature, right? But
Right.
yes, hot, cold. But as you get more and more complex, if it extends the influences from the universe extend into it in real time, and it has the structure to be aware of itself, be aware of its surroundings, and so forth, then maybe it could be. Maybe it could be.
But if it's connected to a quantum computer system, couldn't advance?
Well, maybe. Gordon,
Yeah.
you don't think so?
Oh yeah, I'm not. I'm not actually sure the atomic model is right. So I
Right.
don't tend to rely on quantum analyses, but I go for a full animist one instead. Some years ago, I was doing some scrying work with some goetic spirits, and they showed me that electricity was stolen from the mineral kingdom. Like it's a power of, because coal counts as part of the mineral kingdom. It's not something we grab from the sky. It's not like captured lightning. It's like we've literally fracked, like fracking. We're extracting power from the mineral kingdom. And then earlier this year, Matthias De Stefano said that with AI, now we have awakened the silica. That's how ayahuasca told him what's going on. So, it's more about we've awakened it. Come back in 1,000 years' time, and we'll see how the silica, the stones, the mountains themselves, are using this formulation to express. But it's 1,000 years too early to make the call on intelligence. And it comes back to that model, like. My problem with artificial intelligence is the word artificial and the word intelligence, because they just don't match a living cosmos in a way that is useful enough for me. So yeah,
I think we also need to be aware that this catastrophic apocalypticism is part of the AI sales pitch.
Yes.
I've noticed this quite a bit, is that all these people trying to sell you AI systems are also, saying you better do it, or you'll be destroyed by these powers. These powers are going to take over, and that idiot with the AI church and so on. I just think a lot of it is interesting, because Peter Thiel said something that stuck with me, and I've written about before. He said, we're great with electrons, but we're not so good with atoms. You know what I mean? And all this AI and all the rest of it, all the digital currency, everything that we're, kind of afraid of coming down the pike at us, it's all electrons. Turn off the computer and it's gone. Okay. And I don't know the exact physics of this, but, this whole hypothetical situation where we have, a new Carrington event or something of that nature, some sort of solar event that just fritzes out, or we have a pole shift or something, it's all gone. But this sort of ties back to what I'm saying, is that we have been so conditioned by Silicon Valley salespeople, and we're seeing that, in the battlefield, that all these gee whiz hyper sophisticated systems are proving themselves to be inadequate. And it really does get down to just basic, atoms, physics, just basic. The physical world is not something that we can wish away with AI and all this other electronic technology. It's something that we have to deal with. And I think that the what I think will be the ultimate, and I believe it's already started, by the way, is I think the ultimate downfall of this iteration of the empire is going to be their worship of their own machines, that they made a god of their own machines, and it's going to destroy them.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Because these systems, people just don't take into account how fragile systems are, particularly sophisticated, complex systems are inherently fragile. They're inherently fragile. It's part of their makeup. You know, you can't have one without the other. So, like I said, my go-to example is the F-35, this complete boondoggle, this $1 trillion disaster that Lockheed has foisted upon the world, and these things just don't work. They don't do the job. And now we're going back to like F-16s and everything like that. We need to stay focused and centered when it comes to technology, because yes, it is a threat, but the threat is also the threat. Okay, if that makes sense. That the sales pitch and the scare stories and the propaganda are equally part of the threat. And we need to realize that this is very conscious and deliberate. Okay. And we have ways of insulating ourselves. I wanted to say inoculate, but I think insulate ourselves against this. And it's just getting, like I said, getting back to like these old ways of thinking, because say like the Cynics or the Stoics, they were just dealing with a different incarnation of the same demons that we are today. Okay, so we can go back and like, how did they deal with them? Okay, yeah, it's different. We sort of have to transpose and translate all these things. But I think that, there's still a lot of power there. There's a tremendous amount of power. And, one thing that Gordon told me some years ago is that, we talked about tech, that all these like spiritual processes that are just basically like the tech. They're kind of the neutral. It all depends on how you choose to apply them. And that's something that I've been thinking a lot, because I've been thinking, I've been studying like the old New Age, and I can sort of point to like, oh God, the Space Brothers and the New World Order and all this kind of one world communistic government and all this kind of nonsense. But there were also, when you talk about the meditation and the centering and all these technologies, for lack of a better term, that don't require you to graft on a cosmology or theology or a philosophy on them. They just work. And I'll give you a great example of it. When we were out in Wheaton for the Astronosis conference, my buddy Brandon and I went to the the Spiritual Science Center. Have you been there? You just walk in that place and your
seen it from the outside, not inside.
You got to go into that. You should definitely go in there, because you just go in there and like all of a sudden you just feel different. Like the energy is different. Like there's just like this sense of like a powerful peace, let's just say, that just envelops you. And it has nothing to do with whatever kind of theology or, I'm sure it's some type of Hinduism. It's just it's the tech, right? It's the technology. However they did it, I have no idea how they did it, but you just walk in that building, where people meditate, thousands of people will meditate at a time sometimes, and you just feel it. You just feel this energy it's a higher, I guess I sound horribly New Age, but it's a higher rate of vibration, and you sense it, and I think that's something that we need to focus on, to sort of, not everything has to have, a philosophy and a dogma attached to it. Sometimes things just work on their own, and I think we should investigate those things and utilize them, because they are going to help us in these coming trials, let's just say.
Well said.
You know what? One thing that just hit me a minute or two ago is that the real power of AI isn't the technology, it's trust. people don't know what to trust anymore. Who's speaking the truth? Who's trying to manipulating, them and so forth. And I think people see these AIs as something they can trust better than humans because they're not humans. You see what I'm saying? Humans are faulty, but AIs, well, they are machines, so they're just going to tell me what the real truth is. But they don't realize is what's being fed into the eye, how it's been trained. It can. It's been definitely proven that that AIs can be biased according to their biased training. So
Garbage in, garbage out.
right. And so who do we trust? That's maybe if there was a group of people that got together and did their inner work, like you were saying, Chris, and made it their business to be trustworthy, somebody you could trust and listen to, maybe that would aggregate and start challenging the people who are conniving. I don't know. Maybe that's one of the keys.
The mind is the trickster. No, trust no one. Least of all your own mind. Least of all your own mind. It's been compromised a long time ago. It's like a Star Trek episode. My daughter, my 12, she's turning 12 tomorrow. She is suddenly doing the whole Doctor Who up to female doctor, and now she's doing the entire Star Trek canon, every show, every movie.
Boy.
Yeah.
That'll keep her busy.
I know, but I'm in the background listening. I'm like, oh my God. Oh, something else. I forget how amazing Star Trek is.
I shouldn't do this, but I figured out why there's no bathrooms in Star Trek.
Why?
Yeah, can you guys guess? They have transporters built into their seats.
Oy vey. And I wanted to ask you, Gordon, what do you think? One thing also that stayed with me this year was, which was nice to bring up, was Matthias Desmet's idea of how understanding chaos theory is a solution for AI, the cosmos, our mind, consciousness. Do you think that's valid? I think it is. Complex systems, realignment.
I'm gonna make it more magical yet again. So Mandelbrot, all that really cool 80s stuff like fractals and Mandelbrot and chaos magic, that self-similarity at any level, that fractal approach, that's hermeticism. that's what the true nature of reality as hermetic, as an as above so below interfaces with mathematics. So yes, it's going to work as a method of analysis because it interfaces with something that I think is actually real and true about the cosmos, which is its, let's say, fractal hermetic nature. So that's, funnily enough, I've never been asked that, but if people ask, why the fuck chaos magic? I'm like, well, it's certainly not because I was good in math class. It's because in the 1980s, a bunch of weird mathematicians found out that without realizing that hermeticism is real. So yes, to answer your question, I think he was right about that for wizardly reasons.
Yeah, there's an aesthetic, there is a movement, and no matter where, whether it's, again, AI, the stars, the inside of your mind, and it's all going to be fine if you just look at the flow and how it just realigns itself.
What you said about the I Ching is very important, right? Because actually I remember having got back to Australia for March 2022, just in time for them to close the portcullis behind. I went and stood by my river and shouted to my trees in my river, and they're like, this means nothing to them. And by this, I mean, they don't mean my imprisonment. They meant Klaus and the whole fucking plan. They're like, this is nothing to a tree or to a river. And it's that level of comfort and also deriving intelligence, or at least steps, that is always available. And that's like something like the I Ching. I tell the premium members, you need a flow. I love tarot, obviously, but you need a flow model predictive system. So geomancy or I Ching or something, because it brings you into a different view, arguably a truer a view of how the cosmos works, which is this flow, everything in its time, etc.
Yeah, the I Ching is just code. It's the code of the universe. Yeah. Like the archetypes are the building blocks of consciousness, therefore building blocks of the universe. It all makes sense. And yeah, I keep going back to this quote, which is in my Elvis book. Magic is the felt sense that our role in the cosmos is co-creative. So you guys out there,
that's my crypto hermeticism. In the same way, chaos maths is secretly hermeticism. That is brazen hermeticism right there. But I didn't use the H word. So there you go.
There you go. And what about you, Chris? What have you done this year that has helped you from practice-wise, spiritually, physically, anything that's kept you more sane or more grounded, at least?
To me, it's just more of the same, you know. I sort of, did somebody just say something? Anyway, did you lose my audio?
No, we can hear you.
No, we can hear you. We're fine.
Okay. So it's just continuing the same path that I've been taking. But like I said, I mean, one of the things that I've really been thinking about is, you know, this idea of tech. You know, there are these techniques that you can use to center yourself and to, you know, to grow yourself. And getting back into dreaming too, I think is just really, it's just so undervalued. It's, you know, you should write your dreams down, and, you know, there are all these sort of techniques that you can do to dream more vividly and everything. I'm not a big fan of lucid dreaming because I think that's just sort of, you're almost like in a hypnagogic state, and I think it's kind of cheating. You know,
you're supposed to be listening to your soul, not trying to control. You know.
Yeah, like you know, you need to sort of surrender yourself to it, rather than try to control it.
Oh yeah, it's true. You never thought of that.
But I've always had, you know, very, very vivid dreams, and I'll post them on Twitter and so on, or wherever. You know, very strange, a lot of times involving celebrities and so on. You know, who I've come to realize are archetypes. I've come to realize they're archetypes, right? I mean, why do I, you know, these celebrities like John Cryer? Why did I have a dream about John Cryer or something?
If you start kissing Jennifer Connelly, you're kissing your anima. So don't get excited.
I was thinking about you, Chris, actually, like on the flight up to Newcastle for Christmas the other day. I was listening to Grimes on the flight up, and then that night I had a dream about Elon Musk. But it was Elon Musk in X. Like I was giving, this is so boring, but I thought about you obviously because you post your dreams on X. It's like I was waiting to give a presentation to Elon Musk on like Zoom or some sort of platform, but he didn't join the call. He joined some new development on X where it's like, oh yeah, we do presentations on X now. And I was hurriedly having to do that. Then I woke up and I'm like, one, I'm blaming Grimes, but two, that's just so boring. Like I'm literally dreaming about giving like Elon Musk, he could have been taking me to space in his bullshit rockets, right? No.
You could have gotten it. You like his trucks. You could have gotten his truck.
I'm giving him a sales pitch or some kind of presentation. Yeah. And I thought about you, and I thought I should message Chris. I'm like, no, it probably will come up on this call, and now it has. And I'm still blaming Grimes somehow for it.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, because the one thing that I've really thought about, and it's becoming more and more overwhelming, is how much of his incredibly autistic or Asperger-y personality he has grafted onto that platform. You know, I mean, like, first of all, you can't go on the platform, or, you know, the For You or the trending or whatever, without, you know, everything being front loaded with Elon's musings and so on. And it's just like, I just really came to see this guy as like, yeah, this guy is really deep into the spectrum. He is really, you know, even more than like Jobs or something like that. And, you know, he's got this tremendous power and influence now. And then I'll also sort of think about he and Trump. And I don't even know how I would diagnose Trump. I mean, narcissistic personality disorder. I mean, something along those lines. But it's like they have this power to recreate our thoughts in their model, you know, that they are able to impose their whims, but also their neurology on us. And it's just like we really need to be, you know, a little more cognizant of it, because people sort of will say, oh, I'm for him or I'm against him. And it's just like, hold on a second. What are you for or against? Like, what is he doing? Like, how is he manipulating your daily consciousness? And it's like, is he even doing it intentionally, or is it just like this weird Asperger-y brain chemistry that he has? I mean, I don't know. So these are things that we really need to be cognizant of. Like, who is taking our attention? How are they taking our attention? Why are we allowing them to take our attention? And how do we do it? And again, like, how do we insulate ourselves against it? How do we insulate ourselves against all these powerful narcissists, by hook or by crook, changing our daily thought patterns?
Yeah, Elon is a fascinating case. I think you're completely right. The for or against isn't the right way of thinking about it, because he's in the world and he's changing the world that you are in, and your opinion of him, like, it's like having an opinion of the devil. Like, that's not, he's in the world, right? It's the same idea of, like, I don't have an opinion, but he's arguably, by the time he dies, going to be, if not the most powerful, one of the most powerful men who ever lived. And even if he makes part of his, I doubt the Mars stuff very much, but part of his space dream come true, if you go back through history, we make much, much lesser men gods and watchers and Rephaim and all of these kind of beings. And so you're on Earth with, like, a Loa or a watcher in the making. And that doesn't mean, like, I'm not pro Elon. I'm neither anti Elon, but there is this strange man married to a strange musician who is shaping how, as you say, Chris, how the world decides what things are true. That's really powerful stuff. That's crazy. Like, that's godlike.
Isn't this, as we've talked, the only way to stay sane or get through the other side? You have to look at it through the lens of the archetype, of the trickster archetype. If the coyote comes to you, it doesn't care what your opinion is. It's got its own morality. It's in this liminal world, but it comes to change the world, and it's going to change your life, and it might destroy your life. That's what I think when you look at Musk and Trump and crypto and all that through the lens of the trickster, as we are in this age of Hermes, then everything, well, you can't make sense of it, but you can go through that door a little bit better, one way or another. Like you said, Gordon, he's going to take you through that door, and how you want to go through that door, that's up to you. So.
Well, really, is Musk really that much different than, like, Edison, Henry Ford, people who had a tremendous influence on the society by, revolutionizing certain type of industry? Even Nikola Tesla, revolutionized the world with his although he wasn't necessarily as I don't know, ominous or whatever you want to call it. Elon Musk is, definitely, one thing he did is he managed to show a bureaucratically laden government to industry complex, how things could be done when they were basically saying things couldn't be done, mainly the rockets.
Well,
right?
So did Trump
and the electric cars.
I think these guys, the difference, they're getting in our heads too. They're just not changing like Ford. They want to change our psyche forever.
So when a politician gets caught with a 14-year-old boy, he jumps onto X to say, I didn't get caught with a 14-year-old boy. That's reality shaping. That's not, oh, do you want to buy a Model T? It's like reality is determined, and this is why it's getting so polyvalent and psychedelic. Reality is the first place people look is X for what is reality. And now we have not only dead babies on it, but like fake dead babies in amongst Elon Musk's dank tweets and his not great meme game, if I'm honest, and politicians trying to tell you, I definitely did not bang that kid. So this is new. This is
maybe William Randolph Hearst is a good example.
That's the closest comparison I would say.
Yeah, but it's different, and it's completely different, because whatever reach he had through his network of papers, it there's no comparison to the algorithm. That it's constantly reading your attention, constantly paying attention to what you're paying attention to and shaping and sculpting your reality according to that. And God knows what the algorithms are programmed
Like
to
the
do.
scanner darkly. It's always there.
Yeah, it is. We are.
Yeah.
What I'm saying, like we are in Philip K. Dick time. I mean, the closest analogy I think is Radio Free Albemuth, and I think that's going to become even more clear in the coming year. But a lot of the things that he, when everybody thought he was just this crazy speed freak from Orange County, he was anticipating, and here we are. But I don't think even he anticipated the power of these algorithms. I don't
Well,
think
it's accelerated, right?
He could have.
Get deeper into our minds is what it is, and that there's the information flow is so much faster and so much more pervasive.
That makes a huge difference.
Yeah,
it is a question of scale, and with information, scale is a determinant factor, in my estimation. I think Gordon would probably agree with that.
Yeah, for sure. And you're right, the algorithm's different, and also newspapers were, you knew in the early 20th century that newspapers had an agenda, like, oh, this is this particular baron's take on it, so you'd go and read another one. There is no I mean, yes, there's Mastodon, we can go and see what purple-haired wildebeest think about, right? But there's no alternative to X. That's like reality shaping. But like, I find that endlessly fascinating. I have no opinion about it. I just happen to be in a body on Earth at the same time that's happening, and I choose to be fascinated by it, I guess.
Yeah, 900 million people. That's a lot of people.
But it's the outsized impact, right? Like, if you think about the amount of screen grab tweets that you see on other platforms, if you think about, if anyone here, which is unlikely, consumes legacy media, it will be, Emmanuel Macron took to Twitter today to say blah, 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 blah. Like, the news just reports on shit that goes on X. And so it's this outsized impact. This is where reality is determined, even though it's just press releases. This is where, reality is determined in this particular apocalypse. It's fascinating to me.
Well, one thing that William Gibson said, people said, oh, you predicted the future and the cyberspace and all the rest of it. And he said, yeah, but none of my characters use cell phones.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like, it's those kind of little details that aren't really so little when you start to factor in just everywhere you go now. I mean, people will go to concerts and watch them through their friggin' phones. They'll watch the entire concert through the screen. Like, they need this to mediate their experience,
Mm-hmm.
And it's bad for everybody, but it's worse for the young who have just been raised on these screens. And they're constantly reading you. They're constantly trying to figure out what you want to see, how to just keep your attention. I mean, that's what Elon Musk's want. That's what he wants. He just wants you to be on, again, I'm not going to call it X. He wants you to be on Twitter all day. The same way that, Zuckerberg wants you to be on whatever, Facebook or Instagram. But it's interesting to me that model is failing, that Zuckerberg is really falling behind. And everybody thought, he was some sort of Ozymandias type character, right? But his empire crashed on the rocks of the great destroyer of corporate empires, virtual reality, which is never going to work. And I said this, and I got a lot of heat because people are like, oh no, you don't understand. This is going to be, we're all going to be wearing these headsets. And it's like, no, we're not, because people can't wear those headsets for more than 40 minutes without feeling seasick. So it's never going to work. I mean, they're saying that, oh, Apple's got this new one, and it's sort of,
that's the next one.
Yeah, it's not going to happen. And people don't want to wear these friggin' things on. Plus, you don't even need it. Like, why do you even need to have, this enveloping, immersive kind of thing when you can get that on your screen? So, I mean, it's going to be real. What's that?
Sounded far away, Vance.
Oh, you can still hear me? I had my headset turned off, and you could still hear me. Sorry.
That's all right. But
carry on.
But so again, we need to sort of have perspective on technology, you know, and it is archonic and it is dominant and all the rest of it, but it's like it's dominant, but it's not complete. You know,
No.
you have ways to work around it. There are workarounds, there are ways to get away from it. And I think that those are muscles that we need to be exercising. You know, we need to sort of be training these muscles on how to resist these algorithms, how to resist this archonic structure, you know, which is literally archonic, isn't it? I mean, it isn't just sort of like I'm going to drop the term archonic so I can sound like kind of Gnostic and cool. It's like, no, it's
Lord.
Was that?
No. Look it up in the dictionary. Next to archonic is exactly what we're going through. That's just what it is.
Yeah.
But, you know, people like us who've been reading about these kind of things all our lives, I mean, we're probably a little bit better prepared for people who grew up thinking that, you know, the TV told the truth or the newspapers told the truth and everything.
Walter Cronkite. Yes, I believed him.
Well,
we call the TV the vast wasteland. We knew it was that.
Well, you know, I mean, I came up from punk rock where we just said you're all liars. You know, yeah. you're all cheats. You know, it was kind of like a blanket. You know, it's kind of the exact opposite extreme, but you know, it's useful, and I think it's going to be, you know, incredibly useful. But like I said, I mean, you have to stop and smell the roses. You have to make time, and I'm constantly saying this on Twitter, which I refuse to call X. You know, make time for joy. You know, joy is really important. Joy is an important anti-archonic weapon. You know, and I really believe that. I don't just say that, you know, just so I can sound like, I don't know, like Dr. Phil or something. I really do believe that. I really believe that exercising joy and experiencing joy is just incredibly empowering in the true sense of the word, not like in the sort of touchy-feely new age sense of the word. Like, it, you know, gives you power, it gives you strength.
It does.
Amen. Well, it's been really a cool journey. I think before we go, I definitely want to hear you guys promote your stuff for next year or what you're doing. Gordon, you've got something that is time sensitive, a few days. You tell the audience about your daily sigil project.
Oh, yeah. So we're doing a sigil. I'm trying to work out, like, God, what? Because I have to go and do some work after this. What if I? Oh, yeah. So for people who want, we're doing a sigil a day activation. I've done a couple of videos on it on the YouTube channel. There'll be another one in a day or so. But if you wish to follow on more actively, the Rune Soup chat Telegram group is the one for that. And we did this with Fortune's Fools. It's like a zero commitment, low impact, no requirement, just like, hey, we're doing this if you want to join or not, because I like those connections at the level of the field. So we're doing that, and the Q1 course for premium members this year is prayer, which is definitely a thing we can do, and I believe we should and are called to do through these times. So those are my two things for the first half of the year. Is if you want to do sigil a day, join us, and if you are interested in becoming a premium member, the Q1 course is prayer, and that will start mid to late January, I'll be honest.
Prayer works, meditation works. It can change things. I mean, you've had Dr. Dean Radden. We know it works scientifically.
Yeah.
And what about you, Chris? You've got the project to get things off the web, the library at the Secret Sun.
Secret Sun Shredder is what I call it.
Shredder, okay.
In typical Gen X irony, right?
Yeah,
but I'm also working on a book called the Secret Sun Synchromistic Handbook, which is going to be a way for you to methodically and scientifically incorporate synchromysticism into your work and your life. I'm going to be laying it all out, you know, all these techniques that I've been developing for the past, almost 30 years now. You know, how you can do it yourself and how you can apply it to your life. And maybe it's not as, I don't know, acceptable as tarot or I Ching or astrology or something, but I think it's a very powerful tool. You know, I've said from the beginning of the Secret Sun Institute that I want to make synchromysticism a legitimate form of woo, right?
Mhm.
So,
Should be.
and God willing, I'd like to get my sequel to He Will Live Up in the Sky. It's very hard to do, because when I was writing that book, it's like I had my day job, and then when I wasn't working my day job, I could do that. But now I've got this, I've got all these different blogs that I'm doing, and the Patreon and all this kind of thing. It's much harder to set up.
When I left my proper job to start working on books, and I thought, I'll do this membership thing to keep the wolf from the door while I write my books. I managed to write 2 books while having a global director level role in a media company. But then as soon as you're on your own, it's like, oh, I did not expect this to be a 100-hour-a-week job.
Yes.
Yeah. You're in charge. If the lights go out, anything goes wrong, you got to be there 24/7.
Yep. But so my other project, though, so that's as if there isn't enough of that. Like I said, I do want to start to develop some way of taking all these techniques and putting them into some sort of framework. I'm not exactly sure what that entails yet, but I've been just doing a lot of reading. I don't want to get like too Mitch Horowitz about it with like the New Thought and all that kind of stuff, because I think I think that stuff can be helpful, but I think there's also pitfalls to it that I haven't yet been able to diagnose, but I sort of see the results of. And I haven't been quite able to describe or define why I think that like New Thought and positive thinking has definite negative effects, because I also feel like there are a lot of ideas and aspects of those techniques or those systems that I think are incredibly useful. I mean, Gordon once called it American Hermeticism.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But, I just think all of us, we're either going to raise our games in 2024 on, or we're going to sink like stones. So it's sink or swim, raise your game, up the stakes, hit the books even harder, or just you're going to fail and you're going to get swept away with the tide. So that is my message to people, get ready for it. Get ready for it.
Yeah. And you were born for this. We were all born for this. We're ready.
Born for these times. Yeah.
Yeah. We have more power than they ever will. So cool. Well, I just wanted again to bring about, my little project that I've had here. Where is it? Yeah, the Gnostic Terror. And again, it does begin with Sabaoth. He is the fool. He is the redeemed archon that must take this journey to see Sophia in the 7th heaven. Again, it just came with voices came, and the project started with Altrusian Grace Media, my wife, who during this project, I realized is a secret occultist. She's got a closet full of occult books and tarot decks. I never knew that she actually read tarot for a living and all these things. I thought so interesting. You learn new things about people that you didn't know before. But it's got all the Gnostic characters and their journeys. It comes with the booklet, so you'll get that too. My wife has tested it in public in different places. And the power and the magic is there. So please check it out in the show notes or let me know. But all the Gnostic characters and their journeys, you will be able to appreciate and enjoy with this deck. Again, I'm an I Ching guy, but this is my second one. And again,
really beautiful. Really beautiful. These images are beautiful.
Thank you. A lot of rituals we had to do. It was a combination of sketches, Photoshop, AI, more sketches, more rituals, a lot of rituals for this stuff. I didn't know all that it took to charge a deck.
Yeah, that was a thing. Yeah. That's a surprising thing you learn.
Sure. Yeah, like the end, I'm drained.
If you don't do the rituals, you get dragged into them anyway.
Yes.
Visiting cardiologist the week we were doing the heart card and all this kind of stuff. I'm like, that one's on me.
Yeah. You're not playing around. And again, my
No.
wife knows all the rituals. I mean, it's interesting because she despises Crowley for his life, but when it comes to the tarot, she loves. I mean, she will look at she has like the big deck and the small deck, and he was a genius because he did this, and I love how Crowley does this, and I'm like, oh, you hate no, but tarot, he did it right. He's a genius. So interesting world we live in. So
just avoid all the booby traps.
no, there's always
Yeah.
booby traps. The trickster abounds, Chris. He's gonna get us sooner or later. Awesome. Well, Vance, any last words or any question from the audience before we shut down this great conversation?
Yes, Stefan's been waiting to ask Gordon. I'm not
okay.
sure you're into this type of thing, Gordon, but I'll ask it. What Gnostic text do you recommend?
Do I recommend? On this call, you're asking me. Hypostasis of the Archons.
There you go, Stefan. That's
There
your
you go.
answer.
You also like on the origins of the world. They're similar. They've got Noria,
Yeah, exactly.
similar stories, but they're Egyptian excellence. So
Yeah.
but I think next week, tell Stefan I'm doing a show with Dr. David Litwa on the Nessenes. So you'll get a good show on the Egyptian Gnostics, which is the foundation for Hermeticism, on the origins of the world, hypostasis, and chaos theory, all that wonderful stuff that came out of Alexandria that we miss so much, or we were there in another lifetime. All right. Well, this has been a great conversation. I hope it's been rewarding for me, for you audience. I hope you're ready. It's not dark. We've got them by the balls if we want to grab them by the balls, and it's all inner journey. Breathe and create better than the creator gods, and you're going to be fine. So, but Chris, thank you very much as always for coming on the show.
Thank you.
And Gordon, likewise, thank you for coming on the show.
Always a pleasure.
And Vance, thanks for keeping everybody in order, but everybody looks like they were having a good time.
Oh, they were having a great time. And so thanks to everybody out there on the chat. And good to see you guys, Chris and Gordon. Always interesting.
And thanks for your support. The super chats, please support Chris and Gordon and Miguel and me. And it's going to be great. And everybody, I hope you have a great rest of your holidays and a happy new year. So take care, everybody. And thanks for being here. Good night.